you know, it's like I met a guy, I was talking to a guy before we went abroad. His assets, if he sold everything, he had more than $1 million. This was over 20 years ago, so it wasn't even last month. And even then, even 20 years ago, or 15, maybe it was 15 or 20, something like that, he didn't think it was enough money. And yet, I've had the opportunity to be a millionaire 6 times over, but never became one. And here we are. Hey there, welcome back to our Retire Early lifestyle. Let's step into my office and talk about this Cheapskate Millionaire. I'll tell you, I mean, there's different strokes for different folks and different people in different situations with different paths and that's what's interesting about meeting different people. But when I think back about all the times, I mean, and these are stories like, I mean, how much do you really want to time you want to spend on stories about talking about the fish that got away? I mean, you know, I don't know if people remember, but back in the 87, there was an oil crisis in the oil states in Texas and such. And I mean, you could have bought a beachfront luxury condo, a foreclosure for $70,000 back then.
Wow.
Yeah. And of course now but that's the case with a lot of real estate. Even I know that in Florida 30 years ago, you could have bought houses in Florida for, I think they were pretty beachfront houses for around 80. And of course the Rams were pushing housing in Costa Rica, but at the same time, had you just stayed home and bought housing in Florida or even California or any of these coastal states. And then there was Bitcoin pre-2017. I mean, it's like, you know, how many stories have we heard about the guy that traded his Bitcoins for a pizza? The guy traded, I don't know how many Bitcoins for a pizza back when it was, I don't know, a nickel or a dollar or something. Whatever happened to e-gold? Remember e-gold? That thing just disappeared and got destroyed, and then somebody got smart and came up with Bitcoin instead, because e-gold wasn't decentralized. And then you had the gold and silver stock boom back in 2000, and of course then you had the stock market boom, all these booms. Of course before that you had the technology boom of the 90s, something I heard about but I didn't know anything about until after the fact, after it crashed back in the day. So yeah, what about real estate in the Bahamas? I know back in the day in the 80s, I heard you could get a house, a beachfront house on an island that you had to take a boat to get to, for a brand new house now for like $70,000. Now they're like what, $500,000, $1 million? So I mean, yeah, I could have been a millionaire at least 6 times over. But before that happened is when I had my epiphany, and I decided I wasn't going to put off my life to chase this money idea. I was going to figure out how to live the life I wanted in the here and now. And this was way before Tim Ferriss. This was in the mid to late 80s. And so that's exactly what we did. So we had a kind of 4-hour work week version that was pre-Tim Ferriss 4-hour work week. We were just enjoying our life. And people want to complicate things, but this idea of the 4-hour work week, what it does is it scales things down to the simplistic. It just brings it back to the reality that, you know, people want to get complicated and they want to make things sound hard But the bottom line is that everybody, regardless of whether you're living in your mom and dad's basement and they're paying your expenses, or you're St. Francis of Assisi and surviving on meager donations of people that don't like you, or if you're a multi-millionaire living off your money or your real estate rentals, or if you're just a guy that figured out how to live well on practically nothing and live in the here and now. The bottom line is he turned it into the ridiculously simplistic, and he said, all we really need to do is be able to live the lifestyle. We don't need to do what everybody else has been doing for decades and put away their life for 30 years in order to amass $1 million. If we have the same or similar lifestyle, I wouldn't say exactly the same. I mean, we're not driving Ferraris and living in mansions, but still, as far as the experience, that's the thing. We went abroad for the experience, to have fun and to enjoy it. And so who's not doing that? But there's a lot of contention nowadays in that space, which we've talked about in other videos, not the subject of this video. It's like I met a guy, I was talking to a guy before we went abroad. His assets, if he sold everything, he had more than $1 million. This was over 20 years ago, so it wasn't even last month. And even then, even 20 years ago, or 15, maybe it was 15 or 20, something like that, he didn't think it was enough money. And yet, I've had the opportunity to be a millionaire 6 times over, but never became one. And here we are in our $1 million office. This is a painting back here. This is a Picasso painting of the ocean. I just have a recording going that sounds like the ocean. It's a studio thing, but yeah. But people want to make things complicated. They want to know, what's the secret sauce? What's the, and there's nothing wrong with having that curiosity of wanting to know. And there's been plenty of people that put things in simplistic phrases, and so they're not necessarily original. Lots of other people now, there's so much content now. You spend less than you make.
You spend less than you make.
And you have to stay focused on what your true desire is. That's the thing. And that comes down to your needs. I mean, if you have children, you need to support your family. You need to take care of your family and your children. But if you have a yearning desire to be doing something else, the bottom line is that there's so much content out there. You say, but life's expensive now. I can't remember when life was cheap, or do I? Looking back, it's like, sure, I can remember when we were paying not even barely $1 a gallon for gas. Look at it now. Okay. One of the things we figured out living in the here and now, as I've talked about in the past about having a car, is it's a lifestyle. When it's a lifestyle, you're in a totally different frame. It's like a Twilight Zone thing, where when you're in this frame of putting things off, you're not able to see past that frame. There's another frame, it's over here. You're in the wrong frame, it's over here. You need to move over and realize that all the letters on the Scrabble board are just going to fall into place. And the words are going to come together. I don't know if you play Scrabble, but they aren't going to come together if you don't put the board out there and get started. The building blocks don't just pick up and sprout legs and do things on their own. It starts in your mind. And I think that's what Tim Ferriss did for people, is he put it all in one place in a book to get people to think in more simplistic terms, to say, things are different now. We can do things in such a way that we can live the life we want, even if it's on the kind of means that normally wouldn't be understood. Even to this day, there are people that think, how can you possibly travel? You must be well off, you must have a large income, a 6-figure income. How do you do this? And we've made videos about how we do it. Beginning of something like that comes with the commitment and the decision to do it. the decision to do it and the commitment, and then of course the investigation on how you're going to get it to come about. And sometimes it's just a thing where it's just one step at a time. Like when we went to Europe, we figured out we could nomadically travel throughout Europe year-round for less money than staying in one place, especially in the U.S. I mean, you got to wrap this idea around your, because I mean, there's people that go to Central America where the GDP in Central America is a minuscule amount compared to what it is in Europe, and yet they spend thousands of dollars, I mean, just the other day I saw somebody post on Facebook here saying, hey, we're moving there in a couple of months, we're looking for a place to rent, not even on the beach, as close as possible to the beach, we're willing to pay $2,000. I couldn't believe it. For rent, yeah, we're willing to pay up to $2,000 for rent. Couldn't believe it. I can nomadic around Europe for less than what these people want to pay in rent. It's just, this is what you're dealing with. And so it does take diligence to be able to skirt around this kind of situation where there's people that come out here and have no clue. It's just what it is it's too much money. And so you have to work your way around those areas and those people and the way they do things. And it can be challenging sometimes, but it can be done. And I'm just saying that whether you go abroad or stay at home really doesn't matter. Because, I mean, in my 30s, we traveled as a family in a 30-foot travel trailer in the United States, visiting all of America. We didn't just stay in a campground. We visited California, we visited the Southwest, we saw indigenous that were selling beads on the side of the road in the desert of Arizona. That's something I'd never seen before in America when we were, just in one place all the time. I'm just saying that we went to the Southwest, we went to the Gulf of Mexico, Florida, the Northeast, everywhere. We just crisscrossed America all over the place. We went to lakes, oceans, mountains, we did the whole thing. And that was in our 30s. And then we settled down to a homestead to raise our children, and we did the self-sufficient homestead thing, and that was a lot of fun because you're learning a lot of things and you're getting all this self-sufficiency, and at the same time though you're living your retiree lifestyle because everything's in the balance and you're enjoying the outdoors and doing the things you want to be doing, and you're not on a treadmill and this kind of thing. And just the homesteading thing helps you do that. And so you incorporate these ideas of being a cheapskate millionaire, the Cheapskate Millionaire thinking. And you always have to say millionaire nowadays because I'm a millionaire 6 times over, and then there's people that are millionaires. I have friends that are multimillionaires, lost everything. It happens, it has nothing to do with, putting people in a
type, in a group, in a type.
Yeah, you just don't know people's story.
Well, everybody's circumstances are different.
Yeah. There is a story of a Jewish guy that was became a multimillionaire during the occupation, the military occupation in the 1930s in Germany. And it's because he had made connections with the ruling party and all that. And at one point the ruling party turned on him and took all of his possessions, and the guy had nothing. But he was a multimillionaire during a time when people were starving and were being exterminated because he aligned himself with the party. And then they just took everything he had, and he was Jewish, but he turned to Jesus Christ over it, which was a pretty amazing story.
It probably happened to a lot of people.
Yeah. All right, so I hope you got something out of that. Thanks for coming to the channel, and have a wonderful day.